The Fan. Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5, driven by Borton Volvo. Safety has never looked so good.
Interesting reaction to the latest barefoot on an airplane controversy. I'll save those for the 5:15 segment before Kessler, but now...
Let's talk about the good first.
But now...
The Twins got their first victory in Los Angeles since, I think, 2005. Only their second all-time. So think about it. In 2005, Kevin McHale would have been coaching the Timberwolves because Flip already would have been fired, right, at this point? I think it was June 2005. So
right.
The Wolves season would have been already over. But they got the victory last night because Bailey Ober was good. And they got to Clayton Kershaw and won 5-1. So that's the good. It looked promising today when the Twins took a 3-2 lead because the Dodgers made a mess.
Threw the ball around, yeah.
In the 7th. And made a bad throw to third. Twins runner scored. That's the last time the Twins would score. They would go on to lose 7-3. And you'd say, okay, well, you're not going to win them all. But we did mention they were up 3-2. And as we mentioned last segment, for those just getting in the car, Emilio Pagan entered in the 7th inning and walked in a run, walked 2 straight batters to give up a run, and then gave up a 4-run home run. In the business, we call it a grand slam. 5 runs for the Dodgers in all in the 7th. And they go on to a 7-3 victory to take the series from your Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, it's a bad loss. Add to compounding it was another squandered, bases loaded, nobody out opportunity for the Twins. After a Gallo homer had tied it at 2, they get the next 3 base runners on, nobody out, and they get, I believe it was a pair of strikeouts and a fly out, whatever it was. They didn't get do any more damage there. So that was maybe their opportunity to, shall we say, in the business, break the game open, correct?
Yeah, and they're now 0 for 7 in scenarios this season where they have the bases loaded with no outs in terms of that at bat. They're 5 for 40 with the bases loaded this season.
Did you see this little nugget? Apparently, MLB.com. It seems a bit early for me, but they're already polling, like they're asking a poll of top 5 Cy Young Award candidates at this early juncture.
Oh, I was aroused by it. I tweeted about it.
And here's well, then you know.
Yeah.
Not only were there 2 twins, neither of them was the pitcher we got who's supposed to be the number 1 starter for the club in the Arise trade, correct?
That's right.
What's his name?
Pablo Lopez. You're right.
It's Sonny Gray.
You're right.
And it's Joe Ryan.
Think about it.
That's how good our pitching is right now.
Think about
it. That's unprecedented for us. But we get the loss today, and Pagan, what do you say at this point about him? I mean, we hear over and over again he's got good stuff. The analytics say he's better than you think. We're going to keep hanging with him. He's not. You only remember the games where he screws up. But when he screws up as spectacularly as he does, again, I wouldn't be investing in him any longer in any way, shape, or form. But it was not good today. Pair of walks. The second one with the bases loaded, handing the Dodgers a run, and then a ball crushed to straightaway center field for the grand slam, as you said.
So now they get a day off tomorrow in the Southern California area before they take on the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim on Friday night. Speaking of Joe Ryan, he is supposed to go on Friday night. The Angels are 22-21, third in the American League West. In the NBA last night, it was Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Anthony Davis scored 40 points, grabbed 10 rebounds, added 3 steals, but it wasn't enough as Nikola Jokic had 34 points, 21 rebounds, and 14 assists. Nuggets were up huge, and then they weren't. Lakers had a couple opportunities to tie it. They cut it to 3, but the Nuggets were able to pull away 132-126. So, of course, the conversation today, Dan, on all the national shows this morning was not about the Joker and how great he played, and that the Nuggets, in fact, won the game. The lead was, should the Lakers feel confident going into Game 2 that they may have cracked the code on Denver? And that was the main discussion point because that's what happens.
Well,
everybody plays the hits.
They obviously played better. They did make it interesting. It's classic the way, what stood out last night during the comeback about LeBron's offensive performance? It was one thing and one thing only. Beating people up, going to the basket, driving to the hole. And yet, at the moment of truth, what does he do? He takes a three. And he did not, I think he was 0 for 4 for the night. And look, you could say, well, 3 ties it. Otherwise, you're playing the math game. We're still down 1. But there was enough time left. I'm going to the hoop, man. Go to the hoop. That's what you've been doing successfully. They have not had an answer for it. Instead, you go with the old 3-point shot, which you've not hit yet in the game. And from that point forward, it was pretty much in the hands of the Nuggets. The big issue first half was offensive rebounding by the Nuggets was ridiculous. I think Joker had he was close to a triple-double at halftime.
Yeah.
Seriously. He was
in command.
He was magical yesterday. I lost myself in his eyes again yesterday. That's how good he was. He's a basketball savant. He really is. But the Lakers have to start the game from the start of the game, and they didn't do that. Denver looked a lot more serious early. I still think it's going to be a long series. I think Denver is likely to win because part of it too is I think who's the Lakers center?
Anthony Davis.
Davis scored 40, didn't he?
Yes.
You can look at it a lot of ways. Are you going to get that kind of performance from him and LeBron in the same game? They shot really well. They had more free throws than the other team, and all that happened. They still didn't win. So, that to me is the comeback to the Lakers cracked the code. Denver's awfully good itself. And they hit some shots, including that one at the end of the quarter by Joker that was ridiculous. But he tends to do that.
Heat Celtics tonight, game 1 in Boston. Boston is an 8-point favorite.
Wow, 8 points.
8-point favorite. Victor.
They obviously don't believe in the Tao of Spo, do they?
But they will.
Yeah, they'll learn the hard way and playoff Jimmy.
San Antonio Spurs Davey won the NBA lottery. They get the opportunity, if they choose, to select Victor Wembanyama, the most hyped prospect probably since LeBron James.
No, including LeBron James.
But was he underhyped? Have we underplayed it, Dan?
Well, it's possible.
Because I'm looking at NBA draft lottery telecasts over the last 20 years in terms of the ratings.
Right.
2015, 3.6 million people watched it on ESPN. That was Karl Anthony Towns' year.
Okay. That was our year.
Yes.
Yeah.
The year before, Wig was the number 1 pick. Pretty much the presumptive number 1 pick. Andrew Wiggins, 3.4 million. In 2003, it was on ABC. A little bit of a cheat. That was LeBron, and it was a different time because we didn't have all these options. 6 million viewers watched it. Last night, Dan, just 3.2 million people watched the NBA draft lottery. Is it possible not enough people knew just how transcendent Victor Wembanyama can be?
Well, maybe it's actually a sign that people are smarter and more sane than the experts, the jackals. Maybe they're
not taking the bait.
Are taking under consideration that let's calm down a little bit. Yeah, he's an unusual body, unusual type. He seems to have a lot of skill, and it's intriguing and it's wonderful, but let's calm down a little bit. Maybe they inspired, I didn't even know it at the time, the rant for the opening episode, the opening segment of the show. This could be another example of buying the notion that online reaction is real reaction. When we've learned over and over again
not real life.
That most people in real life don't lose their minds to the degree that the folks who live their lives online do.
Vikings have signed rookie wide receiver Jordan Addison. We got him, even though we knew we were going to get him. I love how this is news. Yeah, it's official. And so now the only unsigned member of the Vikings draft class this year is 7th-round running back DeWayne McBride. Maybe he's waiting to see what happens with Dalvin. Although he can't really do anything but sign the contract.
No, that's true. Well, there was one online report that the Cowboys had some interest, but basically said, we know you're going to cut him. We're not going to do this. We're not going to give you anything for him. I don't know if there's anything to that. But I think it looks inevitable that that's what's going to happen here. I don't think there's going to be a trade. I guess I shouldn't say there's no chance, but I'd say I'll be surprised if a deal is consummated and we pretty much make it, I think, known, or the Vikings have made it known that Dalvin's not playing here next season. And I'll miss him.
That's what I got.
We did not cut Pagan yet. Somebody was asking, have we cut Emilio Pagan yet? I don't think we have. Not officially. I don't think we demoted him. But it was ugly today. It was absolutely ugly. Referendum on the bare feet tweet that I retweeted earlier with a question. Some interesting answers have come in. We'll discuss that. We will get to I thought, a very effective shot at ESPN and Jalen Rose in particular as it pertains to Ja Morant's story. And Kessler at the bottom of the hour. See if he comes in here in bare feet this afternoon or evening.
The 2023 Program Password Invitational Bracket has been announced, and the action begins Friday when Kevin Faunus and Nordo take on Muss and Kevin Gorg in the play-in game. That starts at 1:15. You can listen to all the action on the Fan and watch all the action live at KFAN.com/watch.
Are you familiar with awful announcing?
Yes.
They apparently, part of their job is they distill what various say on shows, right? And sometimes they mock them and ridicule them. Sometimes they just reveal what they have to say. Sometimes whatever. And apparently, your guy, Bomani Jones, according to awful announcing, said, I assume on his program, Jalen Rose would probably handle the Ja Morant interview differently in hindsight. To which I don't know if she was was Candace Buckner once on ESPN? Is that name familiar to you?
It's not familiar. I'll have to look it up.
She is we'll get to who she is later. But regardless of who she is, she made a very good comeback, in my view. Again.
She's a Washington Post columnist.
Okay. Jalen Rose would probably handle Ja Morant interview differently in hindsight. Or, Candace Buckner says, ESPN could assign, an actual journalist to conduct interviews like that. Boom. Zinger. And true. If you really are attempting, because let's face it, if you go back and watch that interview, and I don't think I saw it in its entirety at the time it came out, but I saw a decent amount of it. It was all part of what looked like the packaged, pre-programmed Ja Morant on the redemption tour quickly to try to put this thing to bed as quickly as possible, right? That's all it looked like. Jalen Rose, I think, is turned into a very fine analyst. I have no problem with Jalen Rose, but he didn't, and is not going to be persistent. He's not going to be a journalist in that situation. And so you can do it with a Jalen Rose, but in determining that that's who you're going to do it with, or in agreeing to that being the guy, it's difficult to take seriously the notion that, hey, I want to come at me. I'm trying to show people that I know I screwed up, and I want to be held accountable. So come after me. Not going to happen in an interview like that. It didn't happen in an interview like that. And the problem for the ESPNs of the world is they have gone so far in the direction, in all sports, at hiring jocks or ex-jocks, some of whom have made the transition well, some not so much, that, it's almost like, we've made it too often about the celebrities and the names and less about we're trying to do good journalism here. And in that situation, you could say, well, we should be more than an entertainment network. There, we should ask have someone who knows how to ask very direct questions and is not going to back off as soon as he says, hey, I made some mistakes. That's not, I think right off the bat, it's not me. That's not what I'm about. He didn't answer the question. The first Jalen Rose question was, where did you get the gun? And he didn't answer it. He immediately went to the sort of stock,
the statement stuff
where he's checking every one of the boxes. So I thought that was very well stated. Somebody said there was a J.J. Redick rant on Morant.
There was this morning.
I didn't hear it. By the way, J.J. Redick apparently might end up being the next coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. Did you see that?
He's in the mix.
He's
making himself available for different interviews and conversations. Be interesting.
But, I mean, he's being interviewed.
I know.
I mean, not just he's making himself available, he's being interviewed. Now, I don't know how seriously he's being taken.
Be the second team, right? Because we talked about the Raptors
gig. Yes.
Last week, I think it was.
So, did he do the old, because this texter says it's the hypocrisy regarding gun culture in the country, because we've covered this, I think, that because, hey, why don't we rip the legislators who have their whole family posed with guns? Well, first of all, I don't know to break it to you.
We do.
They do get ripped.
Yeah, that was Redick's rant. Yes.
Oh, he's saying they did get ripped.
No. He's making the argument that you just made.
Okay. And
this is the comeback to that.
This to me is the comeback. And again, you're leaving out several pieces in the Ja Morant history over the last 18 months that has to do not with photos, but with behavior or alleged behavior or behavior that the NBA on at least two occasions has had to investigate that goes beyond the pictures. You can't leave that out. And if you are, because we've even had some of the people who are bitter about the reaction are big Second Amendment zealots who said, because the guy I quoted was Will Cain, who's a hardcore righty guy.
Yep.
So that's what's interesting about this. I just don't think that's all that. I just don't think that's all that difficult. Hotshot sales guy writes that Ja Morant interview with Jalen Rose was like Hannity interviewing Trump. Well, I don't know if I go that far, but it's a good. I mean, I get his point. I just don't think that even if Jalen Rose goes in with good intent, that he's gonna sort of be persistent. That he's gonna keep his eye on the ball of. All right, I'm not an ex-player talking to an ex-player who's trying to help his get to that other place where people are buying that this is real and not just kind of phony. But my guess is that if it happens again, the same thing will happen, because part of it is who he will be willing to sit with. And a lot of times these guys, because they'll say, well, let's get
I think that's part of it. I mean, that's why Jalen got it in the first place, I'm sure, right?
Maybe there's an existing relationship between the two. And I'm not saying that's bad. That happens all the time in the business. But you do run the risk of, why bother? I mean, why even bother with this? It's just, it's all being done by the numbers. Let me get to the barefoot controversy here real quick. I had retweeted a photo that had been sent to me by an individual, a listener who had just gotten on a flight, I think in the Twin Cities. And he was bitter because the tweet he sent out was haven't even taken off and already bare feet. So it's a shot of a guy across the aisle, sitting in the aisle seat on the other side. His right leg crossed over his left, and his right foot is bare. Well, they're both bare, but one is up in that way. So I retweeted it, over the line or much ado about nothing. And the comments I've received include Haley Darling says jail. Michael Russo says over the line. Tony says over the line. Bruce Siski says 25 years to life. Brandon banned from flying for 6 months.
Oh, no fly list. That might be a little extreme.
Is the sign up? No shirt, no shoes, no service. I've never seen anything quite like it. So what if he wore flip-flops or some type of sandal? Is there a difference?
I have no problem with flip-flops.
But what if you're wearing the flip-flop and the flop, when your foot is crossed like that, the flop kind of comes out of and kind of separates from the bare foot. Are you going to be offended by that too, Dan?
I'm not, because at least they're making an effort. You know, sometimes you can't control the flop.
Socks on
or the flip
equals acceptable. Barefoot equals unacceptable. Ishi writes Nicole. John Fart Coley says it's in their own personal space. Verdict, much ado about nothing.
Well, I'm not sitting next to that guy either.
Mr. Stink Feet, gross, over the line, yuck. Men should never be barefoot. So the suggestion there is women, it's okay. That's sexist.
And
Isn't that sexist?
Yes, and wrong. As Mace would say, you're wrong.
Gross. If they only knew what was on that floor, there's a reason airport carpet is blue. So when the lava overflow, the blue juice blends right in. Nothing to see here. Over the line and disgusting. No problem with it as long as they're clean. Virtually the same as flip-flops. Put the dogs away. Grossly antisocial. Over the line. Throw him off the plane. Be a human. Closed-toed shoes on planes, people, etc. 100% not acceptable. Feet, especially dude feet, should never be visible. And lastly, selfish pig. Selfish pig. We'll get Kessler's view on that barefoot controversy. We'll get to some political stuff with him as well. And
KFAN, the fan.
I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America?
Pat Kessler.
Because people have
This is Pat Kessler reporting.
whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I can't trust Obama. He's an Arab.
Pat Kessler.
This is Pat Kessler.
Down this wall.
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
Who would have thought that?
You know Jack Kennedy.
Pat Kessler.
And now, to help Dan break down all the tough questions in politics, it's our own
Pat Kessler.
political wonk.
I feel like a supermodel, except like times 10.
It's been a great run. What a great life.
With Dan Barrera.
What a great state.
On the fan.
oh, that's the one. That's the one, man.
Oh my God!
You actually said that.
And
pretended to mean it.
the thing about it is that I really mean it.
Oh, God.
Once you can fake sincerity,
The pause in between.
I was trying to think of what else would be great. Maybe.
It's been a great run.
Well, yeah.
What a great life.
Pause.
What a great state.
What does this mean? This is
Yes.
gross.
All right. What?
Unless those bare feet are in my mouth, I don't want to see them. Now,
Well,
where does that come from?
Well, is there a name attached that we'll be able to reveal?
Oh, no, not in this case.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah. So now
Oh,
we're going
man.
down that road.
Reminds me of John Candy in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles when he takes his off and waves his sock around in front of Steve Martin saying his dogs are barking. That's Pete from Stillwater. Where are you on the... I'm actually trying to not be the guy flying off the handle.
You're Guardsy's right. You are kind of right.
I'm being too easy? No, I'm kind. What do you mean? How can I?
Well, here's the deal. First of all, I want to go back to the guy with the feet. Only if it's in.
Yeah. Well, there's
Who
a name
was the
for
New
it.
York Jets coach? Who was
Rex
the
Ryan.
Rex Ryan.
Yeah, yes.
He had a foot fetish.
Yes.
Doesn't make him a bad person.
No, and that
Is it legal?
also
Is it illegal?
It's
Didn't
not
do it on an
illegal.
airplane.
As long as it's with a
Not
consenting
illegal.
adult. You can't grab
You're right. Not
somebody's
illegal.
foot that you don't know and put it in your mouth.
You cannot do that.
Gotta get permission.
And it's the toes, not the heel.
Oh, God.
I think that's the deal. So here's the thing.
I'm repulsed.
So I'm kind of with you that it's probably sexist, but I don't mind so much.
That's sexist.
Of course you don't.
Well, of course you don't.
Okay,
Because you're a
here's
ladies'
the thing.
man.
Now, here is the thing about this. Yes, I agree 100% with Guardsy. Don't take your shoes off and your socks off. Can you take your shoes off and leave your socks on?
What if
How
he
about
didn't
that?
wear socks? It's the summer. A
I
lot
don't
of
think
people
so.
wear shoes without socks.
No, you cannot do that. And I have seen it where people sit in the bulkhead, the first seat right as you
Yes.
come in, and their bare feet are up high on the bulkhead on the wall there.
Yeah, well,
So
that's
no.
now. See that?
I
that's,
say no.
but to me, that's different than this. I'm down on that too. But to me, this is not quite that. I think this is in a grayer area when he's basically crossing his leg.
I think you're parsing a little too much here.
What was that noise? Is that your text?
I get
Are you in
so
trouble?
many.
Are you? I
am.
You're in trouble already.
No, I think shoes on, people. Shoes on when you're on the plane.
Well, but
Shoes on the plane.
there's
Snakes
there's
on the
not
plane.
an FCC rule to that effect.
Yet.
Or FAA. By the way, is there an FCC rule? If you're on the air, can you show your bare feet on the? Is there anything that precludes you as an anchor
I'd say
from
nay.
showing your bare feet on the air?
Well, sometimes, as you know, when people in the Zoom age, you see them in their boxers and that kind of thing. So
Well, that's another story.
yeah, there is nothing. I rarely wore pants on the air.
You and Don
behind the
Shelby.
anchor desk, yes. So no, I think keep your shoes on, people, when you're on a plane.
It's all about the wiener.
That's what it's about.
Who is Carlos? Remember Carlos?
The gopher, Carlos.
The gopher has pants.
That's
Don
a good
Shelby.
one.
I have a gopher in my pants,
Yes.
and his name is Carlos.
That was
That
excellent.
made Letterman's show, did it not?
Yes.
Didn't that make Letterman?
It was the Minnesota edition.
That's
Yeah,
right,
and
yeah.
he was he doing
great.
the top 10, the Letterman top 10 list?
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Was that what it was?
No, I don't think he, because Kirby Puckett did the top 10 list.
Puckett,
Well, he
yes,
did one of them.
The
Yeah.
top 10 names that for Kirby Puckett.
The way that people screw up his name.
Turkey Bucket.
Turkey Bucket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
remember, oh my God.
When I fly to Cabo, I am in full vacay mode.
We're happy for you.
Margarita in hand.
I don't
feet
care.
In slide. Sometimes after my third or fourth marg, my flip-flop falls off. Big deal.
You can get a marg on the plane?
Just say it.
What? Is that a private plane?
It's not unanimous. There are some people who are standing tall for the barefoot guy.
And he's wearing slides.
And there, what's wrong with society?
Yeah.
What's a slide? Oh, a slide is like...
It's got to be a
slipper.
flipless.
That's
like
slip
the
on.
sandal.
Is that the same as a
Yeah,
flip-flop?
sandal. Yeah.
No.
It's not?
A flip-flop, I mean, is more...
Oh, yeah. That's more beachwear.
yeah, you're right,
you're
Yeah, the slide is
Yeah.
like the Crocs, like the Fred
The
Favre's.
flip-flop's got like the thong thing in the middle.
Right.
And a slide, there's nothing. You just slide your foot. There's nothing in between the
You
toes.
said thong, yeah.
Well, I knew you would love that. You just love that, don't you?
We lost Kessler.
you throw out a word like thong.
Yeah.
Kessler's gone.
Well, I'm just
He's
listening
gone.
to all the things you were saying on the way in. That's just, it's a little nuts. So.
Yeah. Well, you're the guy, and then you try to get me going. Where'd it go? You text this just to get me going. We were talking about
What?
the
What are you
Uzi,
talking-
the KG quote.
Yeah.
And
KG used some very violent language 19 years ago today.
you were probably
Very violent.
You sure it wasn't Kessler?
I'm sure
Who
it
was the
wasn't
one who
Kessler.
said, now let's clarify. When you say it's gonna be like a riot in the crowd, you don't mean that literally,
Yeah.
do you? You
Yeah.
probably did that. You thought that was a reality check.
Well, I've done it before. I've showed up at sports press conferences
Yeah.
and threw a grenade in the middle. Wait, I'm not allowed to say
you're not
that.
allowed to say that.
Right.
So what you come up with, and I think I remember this, some guy who basically evolving from violent language as
Right.
an example, instead of saying we're going to pull the trigger,
You say this.
we're going to launch.
Mm-hmm. Instead of...
I would say launch though could be violent in its own
It
way.
can
I
be.
don't think that's
Yeah.
another one. I'll take a stab at it. I'll take the first pass at it. What's wrong with people?
Well, how about, did we jump the gun? Instead of saying that, you must say, did we start too soon?
Oh, my God.
But here's my favorite of all of it, because I followed it pretty. Let's kill two birds with one stone.
That's a
Is that
Lester
from Lester
Bagley
Bagley?
favorite.
Yeah,
there's
there it is.
Well, here's what you say instead.
Okay, what do you say?
Let's feed two birds with a scone.
That's awful.
That doesn't even make any sense. What does that even mean? Did you see what happened to your Twins club today?
I did. Oh, my God.
Pagan gives up a grand salami.
Oh, my God.
Walks in the lead run with the bases loaded.
Well, yeah.
And then a grand slam. Pagan, your guy, Emilio Pagan.
Oh,
Does it
God.
again.
So
It's Emilio, isn't it, in the first name? I
Yeah,
think it
so
is.
they have to have a reason, and I feel bad for the kid. And these are kids. But I feel bad for But what is the reason? Why do they love him so much?
Why are you wearing gopher gear again today? Why are you doing it? I
He
mean,
wears it
one's-
every day.
No one's impressed.
What?
No one's going, oh, what a gopher guy. Oh, he's really special.
What, did you
That
just-
gopher cap? Hey, do you like our new name for the Guardsy's Golden Gopher podcast?
I don't think I've heard it.
The Maroon and Fold Show?
Oh, jeez.
You don't need to laugh, Pat.
That's not funny.
Well, would you
That is not funny.
Would you prefer instead, what was the other one we had? The Golden Ophir?
Why do
Podcast?
you do this? No!
What do you mean?
Were you trying to get me going? Why do you?
I don't know.
Why are you doing this?
I can't help it.
Minnesota, hats off to thee.
Here's this guy's the Maury Amsterdam guy's coming for you.
Oh no! Here
it
we
is.
go. Here we go.
I'm batten down the buckle up. I'm just going to read it and I'll give you a chance.
Okay.
Jonathan Turley had an article published in today's New York Post wherein he savaged the media in regard to the Durham report, which acknowledged that the entire Trump-Russia collusion story was fictitious. Kessler probably referred to it over 100 times in his bumper-to-bumper appearances. Does he owe listeners an apology? Are you going to apologize on 100,000 Watt Radio? What is that in the wake of the Durham report?
Have we talked about that?
We haven't.
Okay, good. I thought for a second, wait a second.
I don't think we have. Not lately.
Well, number one, how does he characterize it?
The Maury Amsterdam guy characterizes it as the Durham report acknowledges that the entire Trump-Russia collusion story was fictitious. That's what he's going with.
It does not. Should an investigation have been originated over this, and he never says, no, it shouldn't have. There have been two previous reports which said, particularly with the Carter dude, where that was a bad start to this.
It was. Well, let me read you a statement before you continue.
Yes, because I am very interested in this.
Okay. I think this is from an FBI statement responding to the report. The conduct in 2002, 16, and 17 that Special Counsel Durham examined was the reason that current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do its work with rigor, objectivity, and professionalism the American people deserve and rightly expect. I think that's referring to, like you said, the front end of it, correct? Yeah. What's the name of the
Durham?
Not the Durham. The Steele report, the dossier.
The Steele dossier. Absolutely. Exactly. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So are you going to get? Are you willing to throw the righties even a bone here?
Well, this is
even like a morsel.
This
I'm not saying you go belly up for them, but
I mean like a little crumb off a cookie.
A little crumb, exactly.
I think we ought to pay attention to this.
Okay.
I think we absolutely should. And I'm going to go through the report again this afternoon
with a fine-tooth comb.
Can we say that, or is there another?
Probably not.
All right, so I'm going to go through it again to list all of the indictments that he's recommending and the charges. Wait, there aren't any. So he completes.
There ended up with there were two prosecutions, and they were both not guilty. Right?
Not guilty.
They did not even.
They were both acquitted. There were 24 jurors unanimously said you don't have enough evidence to prove anything. Did it stink? In other words, it was awful the way the FBI acted, but it was lawful. And that's where this came. Now, we're seeing on the righty side of this that they're characterizing this as, see, here's the proof. Here's the proof. The person that I think has the most integrity over this is Steve Bannon. And Steve Bannon, the erstwhile campaign...
Steve Bannon? How does he have any integrity?
Here's the deal. He's got a podcast on this issue today.
Yeah.
And he says that he thinks that you ought to string up Durham. Of course, I shouldn't be saying words like that. Phrases like that.
That's violent. Yeah. That's a violent expression for sure.
He thinks he ought to be criticized.
Much better.
Or he needs to be criticized because he did not go far enough in this report.
Okay.
Similar to Mueller not going far enough because there is not enough evidence to convict someone of a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. And they didn't find it in here. They did find that the FBI acted weirdly, unethically in some cases, but they didn't find that they acted illegally. That's the issue here. Would it be better news for news, quote unquote, if he had found enough evidence to charge somebody with a crime? Yeah, probably. Would that satisfy the people on the right? He didn't find that. And so where are we now?
Gambling dead?
In the
state of Minnesota?
Nothing is dead until the legislature adjourns for at the last moment on the last day. However, it's going to be
your bets. I'm very disappointed in you.
Well, on this one, you can't revive something like this. I've seen rabbits pulled out of hats before.
I think that expression is still safe.
Can I say that?
Well, no, it's a little bit.
What if it's against the?
PETA doesn't like that because it's sort of like objectifying the rabbit.
Well, that could actually, I suppose, be violent if you are forcibly pulling a rabbit,
yes.
Putting a rabbit in a hat and then pulling it out.
Might be right.
I have seen miracles before, but they're rare. They're few and far between at the Minnesota legislature. And you don't have a lot of bipartisan enthusiastic support behind the gambling sports betting in the state of Minnesota. I would not be shocked if it somehow
are we
in the
ever
last
gonna
days,
get there?
but I might be surprised.
Are we? Do you think this is the kind of thing where 5 years from now we may be having this same conversation, or do you think it's?
I do
some
think
people
that's
say it's
possible.
inevitable, but I'm beginning to wonder whether here it might not be.
I am beginning to wonder the same thing, and Minnesota may be on the front edge, on the vanguard of something else, and that is that some states are now starting to pull back on their sports betting.
5 years. Last Sunday was the 5-year anniversary of the Supreme Court ruling that basically opened the door for what we've seen. Smoke them if you got them. Gambling, sports gambling everywhere you can.
And so, although it has generated a ton of revenue in different states, there are concerns about problem gambling. There's concerns about advertising. There's concerns about the ubiquitous nature of sports betting on a cell phone of a kid.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the things. And some states are now starting to cut back on advertising, pass bans on stuff. I don't think it's going to pass this year. It's possible next year, but until the Native American casinos and the horse race tracks can actually get together on a deal, I don't see it.
Ganja is definitely coming, correct?
This is your big thing.
Can't get enough of it.
Yeah, that.
Smoke them if you got them.
That's the deal. Yes, that is on the way. Looks like they have reached an agreement between the House and the Senate, so now the bills will match up. They'll probably vote on this in the next few days. And then it begins in the state of Minnesota. It'll be recreational.
Do we know a date, like when?
We do.
Okay, what is the date?
The date will be July 1st, where you're going to be able to grow marijuana plants in your house, or in your case, reveal for the first time that you have.
But is that the date too? Like, so are there going to be more I mean, what's the distinction between what's legal now and what is going to become legal then? Just the growing part, or also what you have access to? Not because you want to grow it, but because you want to smoke it.
You can possess also.
Okay.
And then beginning in August, they're really trying to start expunging some of these cases, some of the cases of people who have been convicted of minor marijuana offenses, and seeing if they can do something with that. So that is also coming. But you're not going to see a dispensary until probably next year or later. It's going to take that long to set up shop.
What?
Cities will be, I know, man. So
I was assuming that there were people ready to get at this like the moment it becomes legal, and like 2 days later they'd be selling.
It's going to be so complicated.
I see.
With figuring out different ways for the regulating in the cities. And by the way, cities will be able to limit the number.
What about strength? How do we decide? Do we regulate strength, or what's in it?
You're going to be able to.
This isn't your father's Cheech and Chong pot.
And if you've ever been in a dispensary, and I know you have, apparently in these dispensaries you can have, they have different kinds where you can say, well, do you want a mellow high? Do you want a Waikiki high?
There's levels.
Yes. You want an edgy high, dreamy?
What's like the highest high? What's that called? Do we have a name for that?
Well, let's have our listeners.
They'll know.
Yeah,
believe me. Yeah, text us.
Tell us about your highest high.
Yeah, and what do you?
Barrero wants you to tell us about your highest high.
And what do you call it?
Yeah, and what do you call it? So yeah, that is coming. That is going to be approved by the House and Senate in the next couple of days. Governor Walz has indicated he will sign it. So Minnesota is on the path to become the next state, the next state to legalize recreational marijuana.
It's coming.
It is. It's on the way.
Real quick. So the Trump town hall takes place. Mm-hmm. I think we were in agreement that CNN had a right to do it.
Absolutely. The
issue that has come up for a lot of people, though, who never agreed with that, they were even angrier once it took place. In fact, the former, I think she was a former Reagan speechwriter, Peggy Noonan, she did rip the decision because she said she thought it was if you want to use the journalistic notion of he's front runner, that it was still too soon to be obligated to give him that opportunity.
I get that, sure.
Which I thought was a fair point.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, the issue, and I've heard Major Garrett talk about this, is the concern of, all right, how what you set up there. What you set up was a pep rally. You had clearly, and I'm assuming this was part of the agreement, maybe it's the only way he was going to agree to it, but then you're back to, should you have agreed to a situation which everybody there was a Trump supporter, and it felt very much like a pep rally as opposed to a town hall where you say, okay, we got some people who agree with him, some people who are against him, et cetera, et cetera. So how did it play out? What, if anything, bothered you about it? What was it? Was it there wasn't enough firing back by the reporter, the CNN anchor who was hosting? Was it who was there creating a different environment? Or what did you make of the execution of the event?
Yes, we agree that the media have a responsibility to do it. They should be allowed to do it. It is the execution, and there are different parts of that I think were very problematic. I found the whole forum disgraceful, honestly. I thought that the president was mendacious. He was unapologetic. He was shameless in saying things. But that's not his fault. It's the fault of CNN for not stopping him for some of the things he said. And it could be very easily done with interrupting the president politely. Hold on, Mr. President, let's talk about this. Putting up a graphic for something that's clearly false when Caitlin Collins said that, well, you said you would terminate the Constitution over the election denying, over the rigged election. I never said that. I never said that. And put it up. Put up a graphic, put up a soundbite, put up something. Just interrupt the flow somehow. He talked about so many different things that now we know. He was pretty clear about pardoning the January 6th rioters. He mocked the assault victim. And I think I had the most problem with this forum over that. Mocking the assault victim the day before he had been found liable in a New York court of sexual abuse and found that he was had to pay her $5 million in defamation. He mocked her. He made fun of her, and the audience cheered. The sexual, yeah, that is so funny.
But what could she? What's her name? CNN.
Caitlin Collins, who, by the way, was just today.
Yeah, she's got her own show now.
To her own show at 8:00 at night. There is something she could do.
All right, go ahead.
At that point, and I've been in these situations before. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. You stop it down. You stop everything. Hold on one second, everybody. I'm going to go out to this person in the audience. I'm going out, and then you walk to the edge of the stage and you say, you were just laughing when we're talking about sexual assault. Tell me what's funny about that.
Okay, I can see that.
Somehow it would be dramatic.
It'd be dramatic.
It would be good TV, quote unquote, and it would be journalistic.
Might get assaulted, but that's
well. Is that where we are?
Sadly, yes.
Yeah, is that where we are? Yeah. So now I'm.
That goes back to who you have in the audience. Isn't it?
I mean, absolutely does.
That's a big part of it.
How and why? We still don't know the exact reason why those folks were picked. And I get it. Pick some Republicans, pick people who voted for Trump in 2016. But all of them, apparently listening to some of the politicos that saw the audience, many of them were red pill, red hat, MAGA types. So now I'm looking forward to the next town halls because we're going to get it, aren't we? Are we going to get Asia Hutchinson?
Yeah.
Declared candidates?
I'll be honest. I don't think there's you have some decent ideas there, but I don't think there's any reporter who can successfully push back on him because of the way he does it. I think the only possibility is if you have another candidate who can do it and they won't. And well, a couple of them might, but you're right. Most of them won't. Let's break. I got a couple other things I want to get to before we wrap things up. It's Kessler. I'm told that the highest high, let me see if I can find it here.
Oh, here we go.
Is called Afghan Goo, the dopest dope I've ever smoked. That's from Panty Soup Guy. I have no idea what that moniker means.
I don't know what
St. Paul, the Fan.
Reaching a fever pitch and it's bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out and I'll lay your fish bare. See, I'll leave with every piece.
The highest high is called Kesslerville. The highest high.
Wow. That's the Mount Olympus of
I don't quite understand the current weed laws. I stopped at a CBD Plus shop this past weekend. They sell drinks with 50 milligrams THC instead of 5. They say it's 10 servings, but you can drink the whole can. My friend bought a vape pen full of THC. In my opinion, pot in Minnesota has been legal a while. I think he's trying to figure out, like I am, what's changing.
Well,
exactly.
I think that's absolutely valid because recall that last year, in a surprise move, the legislature legalized the gummies, for example, legalized the amount of THC that you could buy over the counter. And I think that threw a lot of people for a loop. Then you were able to have THC-infused drinks. And now this is going to be much, much different. Everything's going to be regulated. It's going to be recreational marijuana, the physical smoking of the marijuana leaf, all of that. And it's going to be regulated by the state. It's going to be taxed. There will be dispensaries. You're going to be able to grow it. This is something that has been many, many, many years in coming, and they finally got it done.
A good buzz may be referred to as I'm chewed. I'm high as a giraffe's ass. Cheeched. And many others you have probably already.
Okay, maybe it's just me, but on my social media feed, suddenly I see Cheech and Chong everywhere.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
You know, are they targeting us because it's coming?
You guys are in the process of re-electing Trump as we speak. Keep laughing. By the way, the failed attempts at comedy are embarrassing and fall well short of the mark. Way to show your courage, fellas.
What?
You want to retract
are you going to
anything
apologize for that?
That's more to you than me, I think.
What does that mean?
I mean, he said both of us, I guess. But
yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say it's you. Just stick with the sativa. Am I pronouncing that right, sativa?
I think so.
Don't have you sitting there drooling on the couch.
That's all I have to say.
Drooling on the couch. I do that enough. I don't need to, when I fall asleep, I don't need any of that.
So here is
you guys sound like when my parents talk about hip-hop, just clueless. Weed is just a regular part of everyday life for millions. Do we worry about strength of alcohol? I do.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure I could buy moonshine or absinthe from Walmart. Yeah. Go ahead. You know,
I can drink cough syrup, you know. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The bill will come due eventually. We'll find out the damage we've done later. It's okay.
So I want to go back to the CNN town hall with the Trump because of our last listener, or the listener with the last message.
He's not happy with you, maybe.
And that's fine. And that's absolutely fine. But who is laughing? This was a very serious thing, and I do believe that it will help him not just be the nominee, but he's the odds-on favorite to win the presidency again, as we've discussed many, many times.
Will it help him with women who voted for him the first time? Because I don't think it will.
I think that's where he runs into a problem.
Runs into a big risk.
So here's the issue.
Stoned to the bone. Stoned to the bone.
That sounds like that would be a great name for, or maybe that is a name for one of the things.
Sorry, I interrupted.
So former President Trump will run in the primaries, and right now among Republicans with motivated voters, motivated Trump voters, he will be elected, winning all these primaries and getting the nomination. That's where we are right now. Then you got to go to a general election. You got to get independent voters. You have to kind of make the tent bigger, expand the tent, bring in more voters. And I think that will include suburban women who listens to him mock the sexual assault, the sexual abuse stuff. And I think that's going to be problematic, as it has been the last few elections. So this is not a slam dunk, but I agree with the listener 100%. This does help him.
Were you at Saturday's 10th Ward DFL nominating convention in Minneapolis? And if you were, what the hell happened?
How about that? I was not. However, that's a hell of a story. This is an endorsing convention for the Democrats for the Minneapolis City Council. And there are a couple of candidates, including the incumbent Chugtai, and Warsami is the challenger. And this thing devolves in chaos and anger and confusion when the Warsami supporters, when one of them gets up to give a speech, the Chugtai's people get up to give a speech, Warsami supporters charge the stage. They are pounding on tables. There's pushing and shoving ensues. They have to call the police. A couple of people get injured. Somebody gets taken to the hospital in an ambulance. And it was a remarkable scene of chaos for the Democrats in Minneapolis. We would not have known about this had it not been for John Edwards, the Wedge Live on Twitter. It's a really great Twitter account. Wedge Live is the name of it. He follows a lot of the Minneapolis comings and goings, and you can see the video there. What was interesting is that this kind of reinforces the story, the narrative of Minneapolis as a place of chaos and pushing and shoving and disorganization. And this goes national. This goes viral. And that's what people
It's embarrassing.
Are. I mean, it was completely embarrassing. And the Democrats lost control. They say they're going to do something about this. We'll see later in this week.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about.
They will be banned from the party, says the party chairman, Ken Martin.
Yeah, we'll see if indeed.
Yeah, but this was ridiculous.
Yeah,
it really was.
By the way, do you remember I'm looking at the start. We're almost out of time. Start Tribune editorial, and they refer to a 2014 DFL precinct caucus between Mohammed Noor and then Representative
Phyllis Kahn.
That thing had to be, I don't even remember this, had to be abandoned after a fight broke out?
Yes.
That there was a concussion, somebody had a concussion?
Yeah, there was, this was the first time that she had been really seriously challenged in an endorsing convention. And I think they did not have endorsement that year. But yeah, there was a fight that broke out. And we're seeing this more and more. And Democrats and Republicans in the last election in Minnesota, the governor's race and for the legislature, there are different, there's at least one candidate who was kicked out of a Republican Party meeting. So this does happen, but not like what we saw. I don't want to minimize this at all because this was a terrible thing. It was shameful what occurred at that DFL endorsing convention in Minneapolis.
On that note, we'll say bon voyage.
Oh,
bon voyage. Are we allowed to go any further?
Go on.
You are hitting this Friday one of my favorite Hawaiian islands. That's the rumor.
Yeah, that's a rumor.
You and Freaky McFreak are getting out of here.
Well,
for an extended vacation, and good for you.
It's going to be great. I can't wait till the July 1st marijuana legal in Minnesota. The Maui Wowie is what I'm heading for. I understand that this will be an international show. I will be calling in from Hawaii.
Well, Hawaii's part of the United States.
Yes.
Just so you know. And it'll feel like you're not. That's the beauty of it. It'll feel like you are far away.
Well, that was our conversation before he went in there. I said, well, you're going to call in next week. And he said, no, I'm not.
Of course I'm not. Well, I'm on vacation.
Well, first of all,
with my wife.
You do have that right. I will not be mad at you if you don't.
But here's why it's a mistake he doesn't.
Okay.
Because you'll recall next Wednesday, Lou Nanny is calling us from Italy.
That's true.
So we think next Wednesday
could be our international
what show, as I said to Kessler, what show in the world is going to have a guest
on that day and that time
from Italy?
It won't be happening.
You don't want to be a part of that magic?
Where in the world is
a Hawaiian guest and an Italian
Kessler.
Guest?
Yeah.
We might have.
That's just unbelievable.
You know what? It occurs to me, we might have too many privileged guests on
We
this
definitely
show.
have the richest lineup, even though we pay very few of them.
Is that Emmy award worthy?
It might be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I can't wait for you to get there. I'm sure you're going to love it, and then we'll try to arrange a time that might work. It's a nice time difference because they're, I think, this time of year either 4 or 5 hours behind. So it's you'll be still you'll have
my
your
first or
you'll
second
have your whole
Mai
day.
Tai.
Exactly.
I was going to say, that's
even
the problem
better.
with Kessler.
It's a beautiful thing.
And you can wear grass skirts in Hawaii.
You could also wear coconut shell bras if you'd like. I'd pay
very Gilligan-like
to see Kessler in a
and you will never
shell bra.
No, you will never
the stories
That's very, very true.
Tell.
So enjoy Diamond Head. Legendary.
We'll call you next week.
And we'll talk next week. Thanks, Kessler. We'll come back, wrap up the show, remind you what you might have missed earlier, including a couple of...
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It might be a very controversial show today. We might ruffle some feathers, might hurt some feelings. It's what we do. We don't apologize for it. Thanks for listening today. Want to thank also our 2 scheduled guests, Kessler, who just wrapped things up and is about to get one of those Hawaiian skirts on and head to Oahu Kevin Seifert joined in the 3 o'clock hour. We talked a lot about the NFL decision to go into streaming even now postseason games and whether there might be any sort of backlash to that. We also got into the question of whether the National Football League should have an NBA-style lottery as well. And eventually we did talk some purple as well. I ranted early about the absurd level of projections going on regarding, is it Victor? Is that his first name? Victor?
Yes.
Wembanyama. Got a lot of good reaction to that as well. Might have mocked D'Angelo Russell. Might have mocked the fools who 19 years ago demanded an apology from Kevin Garnett for his Uzi rant before Game 7 of the, what was that, Western Conference semifinals?
Yes.
Against the Sacramento Kings.
It was.
But we did note it might well have been a warning sign about just how, shall we say, what's the word I'm looking for? Delusional Pitchfork Nation would become in demanding this apology and that apology and refusing to understand that he on that occasion, KG, was not at all being literal. In fact, to this day, I think KG thought he was giving the red meat to the Jackals that they wanted. An indication of this is the game. There's no tomorrow. And we're in it 100%. And so he uses illusions of war, not because he meant that in any literal way, but to make a larger point. Most adults should have been able to figure that out. Then a number of them didn't. Today, sadly, even more adults would actually pretend to be offended by such nonsense when there's real world stuff going on that should be, I think, of greater concern. Who else did we rip? I didn't even get to... I had a couple of good, meaty theme topics that I'll save because I think they'll still be timely. I think they'll still have some talkability. We might have mocked a certain Twins relief pitcher who blew a 3-2 lead, giving up a pair of walks, the second one walking in a run, and then a grand slam home run. I won't name him, but I think most of you already know the name of that particular individual. Tonight, by the way, tomorrow is Dr. Dan's Inbox. Aaron Gleeman back tomorrow. It's a good time to catch up on the Twins, and there is much to talk about regarding your Minnesota Twins. So we'll catch up with him in studio tomorrow and hit the inbox as well. Tonight is Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. You mentioned the Celtics are 8-point favorites tonight. They are not respecting playoff Jimmy and the Dow of Spo. Boston should absolutely win this series.
Yes, I think they will.
And I think they probably will.
But it's going to be a fight.
I may be showing too much respect to Miami, but I do respect their coach. I do respect their ability to kind of muck things up. And frankly, what's weird is Boston has looked not real serious during part of the Atlanta series and even part of the Philly series, Game 5. They get destroyed at home. And they recovered nicely. But that's part of my hesitation to say no question. Miami is good at sniffing out your vulnerabilities and doing something about it. I just don't know if Miami's got enough. I do want to spend also more time on player accountability in the wake of the news that apparently a lot of people think James Harden didn't do Doc Rivers any favors. The idea that James Harden at this point in his career, based on his own playoff track record especially, playoff track record. I'm not talking about overall numbers and overall production, but playoff track record should have any influence over any decision that's made about any coach is deplorable to me. It's an example of the wrong people, I think, sending the wrong messages. But as long as they keep conveying those messages,
yeah,
and I know, then players will think, well, it's all about us. It's all about what we are up to. And I'm not saying Doc Rivers is the perfect coach, but I don't think Doc Rivers is the problem. The new rumor is Doc to Milwaukee.
I saw that. Your guy, Kelvin Sampson, also apparently is interviewing.
Oh, is that right?
Kelvin Sampson. I think wasn't he an assistant there before he went back into college?
That might be true.
With the Bucks. You know, the other thing we're going to have to talk about the next week and change.
What's
this
that?
Is breaking news, bumper to bumper show.
Yeah.
A week from Sunday, because of National Tennis Month, I am throwing out the first pitch at Target Field.
Are you really?
A week from Sunday.
Oh, that's huge.
Thanks to
On a
USGA
Sunday?
Northern. Yeah, Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, that's big.
So
are you going to practice your
well, that's the thing.
You got to.
We're going to have to. So that just got confirmed in the last day or two. Wanted breaking news at the end of the show.
Wow.
We're going to need some build up. We're going to need some video.
throwing out the first pitch.
It's going to be meaty.
Wow, that's outstanding. I'd practice a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to have
Are you going to do it from the mound or are you going to do it in front of the mound? Because that's
one
what
of
a lot
the
of
things
people
we got to
do.
talk about.
Can't wait. Talk to you tomorrow at 3.